Staying in the region, the value of transactions done across point-of-sale channels in Nigeria hit 3.2 trillion naira in 2019. This is disclosed on the latest data released by the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System. According to NIBSS, the total value transactions increased from 2.3 trillion naira in 2018 to 3.2 trillion naira by the end of 2019. This implies that the value of transactions from POS machines rose by nearly 38% in 1 year. And of course, Rise business analyst Chika Mbonu joins me now in the studio for more on this. Good morning, Chika. So to have you. Now, massive growth over the various channels, Chika. Is this an evidence of a booming economy? Or there's something else?
Actually, it is. It just tells the story about how much the transactions before now go through the informal channels, or are handled in cash. You do recall that the Central Bank of Nigeria has been pushing for financial inclusions to bring more transactions into the banking system. So as the incentives go out there, as the new policies go out there to discourage people from handling things informally under the table, you will find that a lot of transactions now are being pushed to the formal channels, and that's basically what's happening. So it's not symptomatic of really the economy is booming. It's just that a lot of transactions before now that are done under the table, done in cash, and not recorded through the system, and are being pushed through the financial system via the POS and other channels. That's basically what is.
So would you say this is making up for lost ground here?
Well, I don't want to call it lost ground. It's just that we know that the more transactions come into the financial system, the more that we know the size of the economy.
Indeed.
The more that we keep better records, and even the tax system, it profits from that. And even those who are doing transactions of the system, they can actually approach the banks now for loans because they have record of the transactions. So that's basically what's happening. That the CBN is introducing some new policies. For example, you notice that the CBN came out with some charges. All these new incentives are helping, a lot of people who have been doing things now of the channel to come through those channels.
Very good, interesting. So is there any pattern to the month-by-month figures here?
It's not surprising. I mean, if you go through the months, you will find that December always had the highest figures. And February, I think, had the lowest figures. I mean, that's basically what happens in the banking industry. With the economy too, the transactions happen more in December when our people celebrate, and then when they get broke in January and February is usually the worst month. So things are very low. So that's basically what happens. It reflects the activities that happen in the economy. Usually by the end of the year, in December, transactions double or triple in volume, and that's reflected in what's happening. Because between December and January, actually in 2019, the growth was the difference about 67%. That just tells you that the things happen more in December than happen at the beginning of the year.
Indeed. Phenomenal rise, no doubt. Now, these growth have been achieved despite the various limitations facing the users, as it were. What have CBN been doing to address these problems, you think?
The limitations could be 2 or 3 ways. First one could be cost, the cost of transactions. And CBN has come to recall that CBN within the last 4 or 5 weeks came in with these new charges that reduced the charges for customers to use for using the channels. All in the process of encouraging people to move the transactions from the informal channels to the banking system, because the cost has been a major limiting factor. Even though we hear now that some banks are trying to go around it, you do recall that the transaction withdrawal costs have been reduced from 65 naira to I think 35 naira. And so we learned some banks now are trying to limit the amount they can withdraw at a go to 5,000 naira. So they can do, if you want to withdraw 20,000 naira, you can do it 4 times to enable them earn more money. That's not defeats the spirit of CBN. So cost was one limiting factor, but the central bank has gone very well by reducing that. One other issue, of course, has to do with the 50 naira surcharge that they brought into the POS machine.
In fact, I think you were just, that's exactly what I was thinking about now. Go on.
But you see, the Nigerian Consumer Protection Commission has actually come out and said that that charge was erroneously introduced by the vendors. It's supposed to be borne by vendors.
True.
And and the vendors were told to jettison it and stop it.
Yeah.
But we hear that still some vendors have already built it into their their machines.
Yeah.
And once you buy anything, a 15 Naira is added onto it.
True.
But we're told that charge has been removed.
Yeah.
So you will find that CBN has done a lot to reduce the charges, to encourage people to come in from the informal channels to use the formal channels. That has helped. The other one has been the infrastructural deficit.
Okay.
The fact that you want to transfer money on a Friday very late, and you don't have recourse to the banking hall, which are closed, and you find that the system is failing you, and the direction is not going. The NIBSS and the banks have worked together to make sure that these things are eliminated. Yeah. And indeed, that when the transactions don't go through, the reversals are done to the customers to show they can use their money in other ways. So,
okay, to a large extent, in terms of financial inclusivity that the CBN is trying to encourage among the banking public and even the unbanked as well, do you think all of this technological advancement in terms of trying to get people to be more engaged in financial transactions has actually had more impact for 2019 and moving forward into
it's having more impact. Let me tell you why. Because for those who have the Android phones, for example, they can do the mobile banking.
True.
Now, if you don't have the Android phones and you have the normal regular phones, you can use the USSD to do your transactions. And the USSD is becoming more sophisticated.
Okay.
And you can use it to even open accounts now. So, yeah, they are working. So, I do recall that more than 100 million Nigerians have handsets.
True.
So, one of the fastest ways for banking penetration is through the mobile phone. And that's what is being done now.
Yeah.
And then if the payment service banks being anchored by the mobile phone companies coming fully into play, you can imagine that will also help in financial penetration, especially in the hinterland.
Very good. Now, how will the reduction in the bank charges affect the performance of banks in this year, you think?
The banks are complaining.
Okay.
Some CFOs that I have interacted with told me that between 25 to 35% of their fee income from electronic banking would disappear, based on this CBN policies if they just implemented the way they are.
Okay.
So, but the issue is just like challenges of bankers have said, the objective is this, like we discussed in the program. You saw the growth in the POS transactions.
Sure.
The objective is that if you expand the banking net and more people come into the banking system, even these lower fees, you make more money than you were making before. So this will encourage more people to come into the banking net at the lower fee rates, and the volume growth will compensate for the reduction in the nominal fees. So that's what's going to happen. So in the short term, they may lose money, but I believe if the banks are very conscientious, when the near term, they'll be able to make up for the reduction in the nominal fees.
Of course, this has the room for innovation on the part of the banks.
Yes.
To also, think of
customers
new
are going to
ideas.
gravitate. Customers should focus on banks that are customer conscious. Creating products that will meet the needs of customers. Yeah. Bundling with the retail credits. Which some banks now are doing very well.
Yeah. Just finally, before we wrap up, there's this instance I've noticed about going back to the POS issue. The levies, once they were told, CBN told them, look, you're not supposed to do this. But you find that retailers, they'll just clamp up and say, okay, fine, we're not going to use any POS. And so what do you make of that development? And they expect you to use cash. But what happens when you don't have cash at that point in time?
Yeah, that's the problem. The transactions are not consummated, and the economy is the loss for that. Yeah. But the issue is that what's happening is this. You would think that the vendors who are pushing for this 15 Naira are actually very conscientious and they want to remit it to the government authorities. No, for them, some of them see it as additional income, and that is why they refuse to stop collecting it. So they don't collect it and send it to anybody.
But aren't they hurting themselves in the process?
They're hurting themselves in the process, but you see, we're very short term. The issue is that cash is cash, money is money. It has come in. Let's do that. You need to buy petrol. You need to buy petrol. True. That's the point.
All right. There's always a demand for this.
I do think that the government, the CBN, for example, and the relevant government agencies should push and make sure that this is implemented for the benefit of the larger Nigeria.
Very good. Chika Mbonu, I'd like to thank you very much for your thoughts on those issues.
Thank you.
Good to have you.